Welcome back to another episode of The Next Step, where we share real stories of resilience, adaptation, and life after limb loss. I'm your host, Kevin Gray. I'm a bilateral amputee myself, and today I'm joined by someone who truly understands what it means to fight for your health and advocate for yourself in the medical system. Dana Massell is a bilateral below-the-knee amputee who lives just outside of Philadelphia. His journey started with diabetes and arterial disease, which eventually led to the loss of both his legs, one in October 2015 and the other in October 2016. But his journey wasn't just about limb loss. He faced complications, infections, and the harsh reality of navigating the healthcare system when things don't go as they should. Today we're going to talk about Dana's experience, the challenges he faced in the hospital, and most importantly, the importance of being your own advocate. Because if there's one thing Dana has learned, it's that no one will fight for you the way you have to fight for yourself. Dana, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Happy to be here.
Well, listen, you and I have a lot in common. I mean, I talked to you a few weeks back, and I was just asking how you became an amputee. And I'll tell you, by the time we told each other our stories, we almost told each other the identical story. We're both diabetic. We both are bilateral amputees. We've had complications with infections. It's been hard navigating the healthcare system, those types of things, right? And we're going to talk a lot about that today
Okay.
in this podcast. So I always like to start these things, Dana, right from the beginning, where you started your journey. So, living with diabetes for a long time, you have. What first started? When did you first start to experience complications in your life?
I had a wound on my toe that wouldn't heal,
Okay.
and then it started to seep. So I went to my primary care physician, and he booked me a room at the hospital, and they took X-rays, and they were treating me for osteomyelitis, and that's how it starts. If I don't know, do you have peripheral arterial disease?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Okay, okay. So you and I have difficulty with the lower extremities getting blood flow.
correct. Yeah.
Um, some I can get blood flow, but the diabetes just killed my small blood vessels.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I
that's
mean, I had enough.
yeah. And that's pretty common with
So,
diabetics, right? All the small blood vessels don't get the blood, including in your eyes. That's why diabetics go blind early. Things like
well,
how are
yeah,
you
well,
off?
high blood sugar erodes the
Yeah.
protective coating around your nerves. They harden them,
Correct.
and the blood vessels, the walls of the blood vessels harden, so that when your blood pressure is up, well, they're not functioning like they should. They're not expanding this, and before you know it, you're going from a 90 something percent blood flow down to 15-20%.
Yeah. Hey, Dana, how are your eyes with all the small blood vessels there? Are your eyes okay?
2 years ago, my eyes were okay. Um, and then I went in because my vision was blurry. Long story short, I had narrowing angles, I had cataracts. So I went through, a couple rounds of the lasers,
Laser, yeah.
and then I had the cataracts done, and then I was good, and then I went for a checkup with a retinal. They did a checkup after the cataracts, and they saw something behind my eye, and I ended up with a retinal specialist, and I had retinopathy,
Wow.
and it started swelling and leakage into the back of the eye, and that's no good. So yeah, I did about I don't know, 8, 9, 10 months of injections, and knock on wood, I'm good. I've been good for over a year.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I still have the injections right now. You and I are identical. I'm telling you, our eyes are the same and everything else. Hey, um, you mentioned something.
Osteomyelitis.
Yeah, what is that?
That's when the infection gets into your bone.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
even if the infection goes away, the bone's never the same. And it can come back at any time.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about. So if the infection gets bad enough where it hits the bone and you're a diabetic with peripheral arterial disease, you can bet that that part of the limb's going.
Yeah. So I suppose that's when the doctors realized that you had to have an amputation at that point, right?
No,
No?
no, I did the home injections, the home infusions with the vancomycin.
Okay.
Uh, the podiatrist really tried. He was he was an older fella, and he really tried to save the foot, and he didn't pull any punches with me.
Right.
And his partner was a really good infectious disease doctor. I'm telling you, you got to find in the beginning. You got to get with a good infectious disease person and a good podiatrist.
Yeah.
But they started with that, and then the bone degraded. They took the toe, and then it took weeks and weeks just for the guy to be able to pull the stitches out.
Yeah.
And every day of just dressing the wound in the morning and covering it up when I shower, and it's just and then but that didn't last.
Right. How long was that?
That lasted for I had that toe probably about about 3 months. I did it in December, and by April, I drove myself to the ER. I knew something was wrong.
Yeah. I went through similar thing. I had an infection in my bone as well, and they told me that it would just keep coming back, and it would keep crawling up my leg anyway. And I got them to try to save my foot. You know how long it took? I spent 3 years trying to save my foot. And we dressed it and dressed it and dressed it, and it just would not heal. And then they ended up cutting more of my foot off, and we tried to look after that. I finally gave up, and that's when I said, just take the foot. But after 3 years, it was a long road trying to save the leg. I myself, if I knew what I knew then, what I know today, I would have told them to take my foot or take my leg right off the bat. So how about you?
Yeah, or I would ask the questions a little differently to the podiatrist, to the surgeons. I would say, look, I know you want to save it. What are my chances? I mean, I've asked those questions.
Right.
Some people want to hold on to what little they can.
Yeah.
It with me, I told I told the vascular surgeon. I called him from the rehab center like 4 days after. I said, forget this. I'm in too. I said, take the leg.
Take the
I'm in
leg.
too much.
Yeah. So they take the leg. Was that really like what was that decision like for you? How hard was it at that point?
I asked the doctor to take my leg.
Yeah.
That's how that's how dismal it looked. And the place I was at with with the wound vac and the treatment I was getting, knowing how I healed and the pain that I said, no, I'm not. It's gonna take months
Right.
for this just to for this for the vacuum just to come off, let alone be able to walk around and shower and be normal again. No,
Yeah.
it was too much pain.
Yeah, and for the listeners on the podcast here, they put a vacuum on your foot because it will take out all the moisture. Moisture is really bad for a wound, and these vacuums are. Well, I don't know about yours, Dana, but
It
mine was really hard to keep the suction proper, and the alarms kept going off, and it was just, oh, it was just so frustrating having.
Yeah, they're designed to keep the dead skin. They suck up all the dead stuff
Yeah,
as the cells try to rejuvenate, and it's a slow. I watched a guy in a nursing home. He had a wound on his backside or something, but he was there for months,
yeah,
and, months before they even took the wound back off. I was like, oh my god, how do you? I
yeah.
couldn't live that way.
Yeah, it's a hard journey. So listen, you have your first amputation, and then when was that? That was how long ago?
I had an amputation in December of 14.
And then
No, 15 rather. Sorry. I had, they took half my right foot in April, and then about 2 weeks later, or a week and a half later, they did the BKA. So I had three on my right leg, and then I had on my big toe, my phallus, I had an I had a hematoma under the nail. And
right,
when the doctor popped the nail off, it didn't look good, and so they ended up taking that. Then they did a metatarsal, and after about 8 days, my foot just started turning gangrene. It
yeah,
turned red,
yeah,
and so then they did that. Then they did that. But I've had two revisions.
yeah. What was that like having the second leg taken?
That was hard, man. When I got back to the nursing home, I could hardly sit up. I couldn't sit up from a lying down position unassisted, and I cried.
Yeah,
I, the physical therapist there, they gave me a rope. They tied it to the end of the bed so I could, kind of pull my way up. They gave me a trapeze so I could, and I used it.
yeah,
And before long, I was building up strength. I exercised in my bed. I wanted to get out of the bed, and so I learned how to board, and
yeah,
that was my.
yeah. I know, like for me, my I lost my one leg in February of last year. And I got up walking on a prosthetic. I thought life was good, and I went home from the rehab center, and they said come back as an outpatient. I went back the following week, and on the Tuesday I worked out, and then I worked out again on the Thursday. And on the Thursday, the nurse looked at my right foot and realized there was a blister there. And by Monday, we were amputating it. And I was absolutely devastated, Dana. I cried too, and was
Was,
really,
was it a blister? Was it a
yeah,
blister or
it
an
was
ulcer?
a blister in between two toes. They think that I was sweating during my workout or something, and they rubbed and caused a tiny little blister. But like you said earlier, there's no blood flow there, so it doesn't heal, right?
That's what I had. I had the same thing. I was
Yeah,
cleaning my foot in between my pinky toe and the second digit,
yeah,
or the fourth digit rather, and I pulled some skin away, and that started turning purple, and then that was yeah. I hear you. I had the same problem, exactly the same problem.
it's
I
definitely,
I, I didn't. I did something innocuously, and it just
yeah,
it caused
yeah. It's really unfortunate.
it really it was
It's
an
not.
avalanche.
Yeah, it's not like we chose to be diabetics. We try hard to control our sugars. A lot of people think that it's easy, but it's really not easy. And we also don't know how much damage it's actually doing to us because it's like they say, diabetes is kind of the silent killer, right? So how long did you have diabetes before you lost your legs? Or like, did you know you had diabetes?
I knew all about it.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to the doctors, and
Yeah.
then there were periods in my life where I couldn't afford the medicine,
Yeah.
so I did without. And the biggest thing with me and controlling my sugar were the finger sticks. I'm good for I could do that for a few weeks, but after that,
Yeah.
even in the hospital, I didn't want to get stuck.
Yeah.
It was just after a while. So I did it to myself. Me,
Yeah.
myself, and I did it. I'm to blame for where I'm at, and it's probably why I'm very easy to accept it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm guessing.
that makes sense. So listen, let's switch gears a little bit. I know that you had a hospital stay and it wasn't exactly smooth. So what were some of the challenges you had in the hospital?
In the hospital, I didn't have any challenges. In the rehab center, I
Oh,
had lots of challenges. I was supposed to be in a skilled facility on a skilled floor. In other words, these are people who are out of a hospital trying to get back to the community, who are intended to go back to the community. They get stronger, whatever.
yeah.
Um, I got stuck with dementia patients. They stuck me with a gentleman. I had the pleasure of watching him die of a brain tumor. I mean, I had people that were never going back to the community.
Right.
It was awful. I mean, I saw people lying in soiled beds. Um,
Yeah.
and then I started learning the system. I learned the rules. I learned the administration. I sat and I observed everybody work. And once I got an understanding of how things operated, I used the system to my advantage.
Yeah. And you
You know,
stayed there.
I've had
You didn't switch rehab centers or anything. You stayed there once you figured it out.
they're all bad, man. I was on Medicaid. I was on Medicaid. So a Medicaid nursing facility, you're getting the minimum care.
Yeah.
Okay, you're getting any physicians group or any entity that's willing to go through the hell to get paid by Medicaid.
Right.
Which is doled out in my state. It's doled out by the state of Pennsylvania.
Right. Yeah, we're lucky.
So
Yeah, we're lucky here in Ontario and Canada here because our health benefits are all covered, right? And our rehab centers are pretty good for the most part.
yeah, okay. So how long did it take you to see your first podiatrist? How
Uh,
long did it take you to see
yeah.
a specialist?
Literally, right after I had my leg amputated, I was meeting with my OT, my PT, my podiatrist, all of them. As a whole team. They all walked in the room together and they told me what was going to happen over the next several months. So it was really good here. I have no complaints about that. The one thing I would say is like I don't know that they knew how to manage pain all that well. Like they give you a couple painkillers, but I don't think they realize how much pain you go in. Where did you have the same experience?
It was funny. It One hospital, I've had amputations in two different hospitals. The one hospital, they gave me the morphine pump. And the nurse, one time, I was so high, the nurse came in, asked me my date of birth, and I told her 65, but it's really 63. And she goes, I think we got to lower your dosage. And then I went to another hospital, and I was in a lot of pain. And I have a high threshold of pain.
Yeah.
And yeah. and I'm not one to self-medicate.
Right.
And I argued with the doctor because you have an internal doctor who kind of manages the whole team, right?
Yeah.
And and I argued with him. I said, "Look, I asked my PA in the nursing home to wean me off the oxycontins before they were doing it. I managed my pain that way.
Right.
I was weaning my, but I'm asking for it now because I'm in a lot of pain." And he's
So
like,
you
"Well,
must need it.
no, I yell. Look, I said, fine. I said, what I'm feeling now is like torture. I
Yeah.
know what it's like to have a limb die, and I know what it's like to sit through it in pain." I said, "I'm sweating. My blood pressure's up." I said, "What do I got to do to convince you I'm not a drug seeker?"
Yeah. Yeah. They
I said,
probably
"You know what?" I looked the doctor dead in the face, and there were two other people in the room. I said, "Fine, don't give me anything. I'll just suffer. Don't give me a goddamn thing."
yeah.
And the nurse came in, and I guess he put the order in. But I've had polar opposites
Yeah.
to answer your question. I've had people that were more than willing to medicate me as much as I wanted, and I actually said, "All right, I'm good. Let me go off.
Yeah.
You know, if I need an as needed oxy
Yeah.
because I overdid it at therapy or something, fine."
Yeah.
And that was it. And I'd only take my stuff at night.
Yeah.
Any of the narcotics I had to take, I took at night so I could rest.
Yeah.
And then
That's when I took mine too, Dina, is at night. So you don't sleep very well when you're in pain. Hey, listen, you got a staph infection as well too at the hospital, right?
I called MRSA.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. That's because they were so clean at this place. My God, I used to bring bleach into the shower.
Right.
I would bleach the shower chair before I'd get on it
Yeah.
because the aides would never follow procedures in the shower. So
Right.
you got these older patients who can't control their bowels or their bladders are
Right.
doing whatever in the shower, and nobody's cleaning the shower, and then they're wheeling somebody like me in.
Yeah. When did you really, realize you had to start advocating for yourself? Right away or?
Yeah, right away because I I did everything, man. I took copies. I had every doctor I went to gave me a copy of the order. So I handed one order back when I got to the nursing home, and I kept a copy
Yeah.
because I had to hold those doctors and nurses accountable for my wound care. So my first night there, I'm a diabetic, right? They stick me in with some guy on some machine, and I couldn't sleep, whatever. So my first meal was waffles with syrup.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was just one carb after another. I said, I can't eat this. I'm a diabetic.
Yeah.
Well, the dietitian's going to come around and blah blah blah. I refused the tray.
Yeah.
Then I said, "Are you coming in to dress my wound?" This was like the second day because I knew they were supposed to clean my wound each day. I read the order,
Yeah.
and she's like, "No, no, it's not. It doesn't have to be done every day." I said, "No, the doctor wrote an order says it has to be done every day." Finally, on the close to the third day, nurse came in and cleaned the wound. It started to hist. They call it. It
Yeah.
it started to like little white blisters with it, and dehist. I think they called it.
Yeah.
And she came in kind of humble. I said the order. I pulled out a copy of the order. I said the order says every day.
Yeah.
I
And
said you guys are going to put me back in the goddamn hospital.
yeah, there's a reason why it has to be done every day. The moisture is so bad because moisture, allows for bacteria and your wound just gets worse and worse. I guess that would probably be the advice you'd give somebody going into the hospital is just learn how to advocate for yourself. Is that what you would say to somebody?
Yeah, I would say, look, you treat all these healthcare professionals like you would treat a contractor, an electrician, a plumber, a guy stocking your shelves at the store. You treat them, there are good actors and there are bad actors.
Yeah.
And some doctors, do have this God complex. Um, but I ask a lot of questions. I ask them in layman terms, explain to me the medications you're giving me or print it out.
Yeah.
Explain to me why I need this procedure and walk me through the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Now, I could tell by body language if the guy's getting huffy and puffy with me, I know this is not the doctor for me. I don't care how good he is.
Yeah.
His head's in the wrong place. I'm an interruption of his day instead of a part of it. And
Yeah.
I've had a wound care doctor that way.
Yeah.
I had one doctor who said, you know what? I'll get you a room. I'll get you out of that place. Come see me. We're going to get you on your feet right away. And then the wound care doctor, I said, last time it tunneled like this and looked like this, yeah, I had a revision. He's like, nah. I said, you want me to come back week after week and it's not getting better?
Yeah.
I don't understand. So you want me to spend weeks and weeks for you to bill me for this? And the doctor looked at me and I said, all right, I'll come back. I'll make another appointment. I got back to the nursing home. I called the doctor who did my right BKA and my right revision, and I sent him a couple pictures of my stump
Yeah.
and what the doctor recommended. And within about I don't know 30 seconds, looking at the pictures, he says, "I'll get you in right away. I'll do it." He
Yeah.
said, and then I fired the doctor, and that was a funny phone call. I
Yeah.
fired the doctor.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you can fire a doctor. People don't realize that. It's your body, and you get to ask the questions. And if you don't aren't happy with the questions, you can ask for another doctor. So, yeah, good advice. Good advice. Hey,
You
let's.
know, there's an old saying. You know the difference between God and a doctor.
What?
God doesn't think he's a doctor.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's true too. Hey, listen, let's talk a little bit about life after your amputation. So you no longer work now, and you told me that travel is really difficult. Can you just expand on that? Like, what did you do, and why is travel a little tricky for you now?
Well, let's just say I ate something that didn't agree with me, and I'm out and about. I can't. I don't have those leg muscles to hold that in like I used
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
That's a big scary thing for me.
yeah.
I mean, if I have to urinate, they actually make this product. It's a little bag, and you pee in the bag, and whatever's in the bag absorbs all the moisture. I mean, you can hold the bag upside down, and you tie the string on top, and you just toss it in the can.
Oh,
It's like a diaper
yeah.
almost, but
Well,
it just sucks all that moisture.
it makes
And,
sense that they would have something like that. There's a lot of people that have problems like this, and yeah,
but if I got going number two, I mean, can I get up with one bar? Yeah. Is it healthy and safe for me? Not really, because it's hard. I need bars on both sides of the commode
yeah,
for me to feel comfortable and do what I do. And unless I want to bring around one of those uh, portable commodes,
yeah,
you take the oh my God, you take the bucket out and you just
yeah,
throw it right over the toilet. I
yeah,
mean, Amazon. I saw something on Amazon that can go over any toilet, and it's really lightweight in the way it's designed. And I'm not sure how safe it is if I lean left or right, because like you, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm
yeah,
like 240, 250.
yeah, yeah,
So, but that's the problem with traveling. It's toileting, worrying about where am I going to go,
yeah,
or if I have really bad. Sometimes I get ghost pains that just come and go,
yeah,
and sometimes they'll last for hours.
yeah.
And then I'm in a sitting position, and that gets uncomfortable after a period of time.
You traveled a lot though before, and you managed call centers, I think, around the world. Did you, having that part of your life taken away, do you miss it?
You could say that, or you could say, look, I could die today and say I've lived a full life.
Yeah,
I've seen more of the world than a large population of the world will never see. I mean, you know, I, I look at it as, look, I've been there and done that.
yeah.
I,
You lived my life. You're living my life. I'm telling you. I have traveled all over the place and been very, very fortunate with the work that I do and seen all parts of the world. And I go back to my hometown and I talk to people that I grew up with and they've never even left their town. Like it's like they've never even been on a vacation. I'm like, wow, I can't even imagine that. Can't even imagine that.
yeah, I spent 6 months in Montego Bay, heading up um, a new site,
Right.
building out a new site. And after about 30 days of tourists and the same things in the buffet on a Tuesday, and I got I you know I complained. and people are looking at me like I'm crazy. Hey,
Yeah.
you're in paradise. Hey, what's
Yeah.
the complaint about? It's the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Every day is Groundhog Day.
Yeah. It's not, it's, employment and working travel is not that exciting.
I mean, yeah. I mean, when you traveled, you worked. When I
Yeah.
traveled, I worked 6 in the morning till 6 at night, and I had my, I came in on a Saturday for a few hours, and then I had a day and a half to myself.
Yeah. Do you drive anymore, Dana?
No,
No.
I April 15th or April 17th of 2016 was the last time I drove myself to the ER, and that was it.
Yeah.
It took me 17 months to get out.
So as an amputee now, how do you get around?
Um,
Shopping, appointments like that, doctor's appointments?
I have two power chairs. I was fortunate. I found something under the table, and well, long story short, I I um I was able to get myself out of debt, and I bought a couple power chairs. So I have a power wheelchair that I use just for the inside of the house,
Okay.
and where I take out my garbage, and then I have a bariatric Jazzy Elite chair. It's
Yeah.
a powerful chair.
Yeah.
And I use that to go to the supermarket. Now my supermarket is 2/10 of a mile away,
Okay.
and they built a causeway between the access road joint, adjacent to the supermarket to the our parking lot. So I actually don't even have to go on a highway
Oh
to
yeah.
to go to the supermarket, and my pharmacy's there. They built it for the residents because
Yeah.
it's an apartment complex full of seniors, full of, there's some people
That's
like
great.
me,
That's great.
so and then there's a 7-Eleven across the street. So if I want to go get my nicotine pouches, I can go there. And then there's a little halal restaurant there, and then there was a barber shop there, close by. And if I go another 10th of a mile, 3/10 of a mile away from my house, is my primary care physician. So
Oh,
I take the power chair as long as it's not raining, and as long as there's no snow or ice. I'll take the power chair. It doesn't really matter how cold it gets. I
that's,
don't like to. I don't like to go out when it's like below zero, or
yeah.
when it's in the teens. But I've done it.
Yeah. Sounds like you're well set up and everything's pretty convenient there. What about your home? What's some of the biggest changes you had to make to your home?
Oh, everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I my house is a house made for cripples. It's a house made for people like me. It's a house made because there's no couch. I have a kitchen table with a slave board in it. I put the Kurg on top and a couple things, and I have two chairs, and then if I have company come over, they sit in those chairs, and I sit in the power chair, and we do whatever. I mean, I don't have any dishes. I don't use dishes. I use Tupperware with lids and vents because I have to carry everything through a pouch
Yeah.
on the front of my walker.
Yeah.
And so, I've adapted things that way. I've opened up my whole floor. Um, I've learned to keep things around the perimeters, little tables with lamps or whatever, and there's really no clutter.
Yeah.
It's I have a rule. If I haven't worn it in 90 days, I really don't need it. If I haven't used it in 6 months, I'm never gonna miss it.
We all should live that way. I'm telling you, my garage is just, it needs some attention, I'll tell you.
I've constantly filled a closet 3 or 4 different times over 7 years and emptied them out
Yeah.
over the course of that time
Yeah.
with the spare hospital bed that I didn't need anymore, the spare mattress, the spare whatever. I got rid of it all. I
Yeah.
even, I even threw
Dana,
out, I even
Dana,
threw out all my
I,
old sockets.
yeah. So listen, what's your biggest thing that you would say to somebody if you just they just lost their leg? What would be the biggest thing you tell them about changing your living space? What's
you have to modify the space to make it accessible, meaning the doors need to be 32 inches and not the 20 something inches that they
Yeah,
are.
that's a good one.
You can't have any steps. You shouldn't. Bilaterals shouldn't go up and down steps, especially if you're nursing a wound or whatever, and you're in a wheelchair. I mean, you can still get on and off the toilet and whatever, but
Yeah,
um, the carpeting you have to have. There's a grade. I have a carpeting that's like this. It's almost like laying on a solid floor,
right.
and that is so that wheelchairs can easily you can roll back and forth with a wheelchair on it. I mean, do you need shag carpeting? No. Do you
No.
need do you need padded carpeting? No. So if you're going back into a space that had all these able-bodied things, think about the padding in your carpeting. Think about what it's like going to be like. Have a physical therapist, show you what it's like to walk on padding,
Yeah,
show you what it's like to walk on grass, show you what it's like to walk on different surfaces,
yeah,
which they do.
yeah,
But you could say, hey, this is where I'm going.
yeah,
Show me how to get. I had a car.
yeah,
I didn't give up my car right away. I said, show me how to get in and out of my car, that car right there. And that's what we did.
yeah,
So you have to think of when you're in the nursing home and you're bound by that chair, start looking at your space as if it was home and how you would get around in that chair. And you'll start thinking, well, this thing's going to be in the way. This thing's going to be, and you start to think in terms of convenience and adaptability versus aesthetics,
yeah,
and your whole life changes that way.
yeah,
I don't care if I got a square table I paid $18 for on Amazon. It serves its purpose. I don't need it. You know what I mean? It just
yeah,
I buy what I need to buy. I have these dressers I bought from Amazon.
right.
You slap them together. 30, 50. What do I need an armoire for?
Yeah,
I so I learned to realize that I live alone. I don't have to impress anybody. Generally, what other people think is none of my business anyway. So it's all about convenience for me.
yeah,
What's good for Dana?
yeah. That
Now
makes sense.
you're married, so you're compromising. You have to compromise. I don't have to compromise. That's so. I guess if you have a family that really understands, if your wife is really understand, it really I don't see it really being an issue. You'll have give her one or two rooms and don't touch it. Don't
Yeah.
mess with it.
So are you walking Dana at all? Like you use a device to walk, right?
I use a walker. I have a wide
Yeah,
gait. I have a very wide gait. I was a big boy.
yeah,
And so I have a bariatric walker, and I put my legs on in the morning. I make my coffee. I wash my dishes, and I'm upright. I'll take some defrost something, or I'll prep, what I'm going to cook, two, three,
yeah,
4 hours later, and then I'll drink my coffee, and my legs are on. And if I get up and go, my legs stay on. And if I got to go to the bathroom, I walk to the bathroom. I get up and put things in and out of the oven. For
yeah,
3 hours, I'm moving around.
yeah,
Um, you
yeah.
know,
It's
if
real work. It's a real workout too, right? Like it takes a lot of energy with prosthetics. Do you find that? Like, what's your biggest challenge for prosthetics yourself?
well, I could walk 600 feet at my best, but I out of it at the end, I was soaking wet.
Yeah,
I mean, I needed a shower every time I walked around the building. You do the best you can. See, like I said, it's easy for me because I live alone.
yeah, yeah,
And one thing I'm sure you've noticed is people don't know how to take it. Even your loved ones. They don't understand. You start saying no because I can't come to your house because
Right.
if I come to your house, I got to turn half of it upside down, and I don't want that. I want to be a guest. I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There, and you'll find that some people don't want you in their house because they don't want to move shit around. They want their space just the way it is. And
Yeah.
I don't blame them. They're entitled to that.
Yeah.
That's what they
That's
work
right.
hard for.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and then some people don't know how to how to really handle your disability.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people think that you can just put your legs on and let's go, right? It's not that simple.
Well, they look at you and you don't know. You can almost see the self pity in their eyes.
Yeah.
I got all these people that come up to me and say, your attitude, you're this, you're that, I admire it. I'm like, I'm nothing to admire, man. I did this to myself, and I'm just a poor slob living with it. And I'm just, and I find a way to smile and get through the day, you know. And when you have no choice, you have no choice. What choice do we have?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just hope that your children understand that they don't have to turn their house upside down. But if they want you to come for Thanksgiving dinner, they're going to have to turn it upside down for a day.
Yeah.
They're going to have to make sure that 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 you get the modifications you need so that you can enjoy yourself.
And to be safe in that space too. You don't want to be tripping on things.
Well, you don't want to be there and say, "Well, I can't do that because of this, or this
Yeah.
is in the way, or that's in the way." And right then and there, it's like, oh, you're like somebody with an anchor tied to their ass. Nobody wants to. Do you blame them? No, but some people don't know how to deal with it. They don't know. I get a lot. Are you a veteran? No, no, no. I'm not a veteran. I'm.
Right.
I get some people that at the supermarket will look right through me,
Yeah.
cut
Yeah.
in front of me, look right through me. I mean, like, and I hate indifference. You
Yeah.
can treat me badly, but
Yeah.
don't treat me with indifference.
Yeah.
And then some people are like, "Hey, can you reach this, or do you need me to grab something for you?" No, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I'm not shy. If I need somebody to reach, I ask people all the time, "Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you reach that for me up there?"
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you smile a lot. You got to smile a lot. I don't want to be that grumpy old cripple. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Uh,
get that. You don't have family, Dana, at home, so you live on your own. What's it like to be, what's it how do you stay so independent at home on your own?
I read a lot. I watch. I love documentaries. I love learning things.
Yeah.
There's a courses show that you can get free subscriptions to. And I learn all kinds of things. Listen to music. I'm a movie buff. I love my sports. I love my baseball. I love my
Okay.
basketball. Um, I keep my mind busy. I look at recipes. I'll go to the if it's nice out. Like yesterday, it was nice. I didn't eat anything yesterday. I went to the store anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just tool around, or I'll sit outside. When my roses bloom, I'd love to sit outside and just look at the bees hopping around and just
Live in the moment. Yeah.
just checking out my roses. No, you see a person with no legs, the images just flush, just rush in your head. I,
Yeah.
I don't think I think that's pretty self-evident, and and each individual has their own perception or what it would be like in their own mind. But it's hard to look at somebody. It's hard to look at an amputee and not wonder what it would be like for yourself to be without that in that moment.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at it before your amputation? Have you ever looked at an amputee and said, "Wow, check out that leg"? I wonder
Yeah.
what it's like.
If I go to the mall and I'm walking around, everybody's looking at me and everybody's wondering what happened to me, right? So you get both extremes, I think. Hey, if you had to tell somebody, or you wish you knew before you became an amputee and you were just starting your journey, what would that be?
fight for the best care that you can get.
Yeah, good one.
Just keep fighting for the best care you can get. Find the doctors that you identify with. You gotta like the doctors who are saving their life. You have to. You can't look at them and say this guy's a dick, or this guy's pompous, or this guy.
Yeah,
Again, I don't care how skilled you are, but if you're not going to treat me like you would treat your father,
yeah,
then I don't want you.
yeah,
You're going to
absolutely.
treat me like just a patient. I don't want you.
Hey, listen, we're just running out of time here, Dana, but anything
Okay?
else you want to cover for today? Anything we haven't talked about?
Just eat healthy, stay healthy. Keep learning to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Don't
Yeah,
be afraid to ask for things. Don't be afraid to fight for something,
yeah,
because reasonable accommodations. Um, most landlords don't comply with the law unless you throw it in their face. Then
yeah,
they have to comply with the law.
right.
I mean, so but you have to, the old saying, the good news is that you can get everything you want or need, but the bad news is you got to go through it.
Yeah, yeah, that's good advice. I mean, fight for what you deserve, right? We all deserve the best care. Listen, Dana, really good talking with you today. I really appreciate you doing this with us. There's a lot of people, a lot of listeners that are just starting their journey of limb loss, and this will really help them to understand, hearing these stories like yours and others helps them understand what to expect and that, hey, they're not alone and they can get through this. So thanks so much, Dana. I really appreciate your time today.
And listen, thank you for the work that you're doing. Really, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Dana.
Take care now. Bye bye.
Dana, thank you for sharing your story today with us. Your honesty, your resilience, and your willingness to speak up about the challenges of navigating the healthcare system will no doubt help a lot of people who are going through similar experiences. For those of you listening, I hope this conversation has been helpful. If you're faced with limb loss, dealing with a chronic illness, or struggling to get the care you need, remember you have to be your own advocate. No one will fight for you the way you can fight for yourself. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to The Next Step and share the podcast with someone that might benefit from hearing it. And if you have a story to share, reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care, stay strong, and keep moving forward, one step at a time. I'm Kevin Gray, and this is The Next Step.